Your sins bars you from entering heaven. Your only shot is to crack a joke to gain entry. Which one do you tell? An Irishman walks into a pub in Dublin and orders 3 pints. When they are placed in front of them, he takes a sip from one, then a sip from the next, then a sip from the third one. He repeats this process until they're all gone and orders another round. The barman says, "You know, pal, they're less likely to go flat if you drink them one at a time." The Irishman says, "I have 2 brothers. One lives in Australia and one lives in the States. When we went our separate ways, we promised each other we'd always drink this way in memory of the days we used to drink together." The barman is touched and thinks that's a great tradition, so he serves up 3 more. Eventually, the Irishman becomes a regular at the pub, always ordering in the same fashion. One day, however, he arrives and orders only 2 pints. The other regulars notice this, and a hush falls over the room. The barman solemnly tells the Irishman, "I'm so sorry for your loss. Please accept my condolences." The Irishman chuckles and replies, "Oh, no, everyone's fine. I just joined the Mormon church, and they made me quit drinking." 3 knights are attending the king's court, where he has asked them to tell of their great deeds. The first knight says, "Sire, I defended our border, and held out as the enemy laid siege to the city. I slew their champion in single combat. This I have done in your name." The king thanks him, and rewards him with lands and riches. The second knight says, "My lord, I sought out the bandits of the Great Wood, infiltrated their hideout, and wiped them out to the last man. This I have done in your name." The king thanks him, and gives him even more lands and riches. The third knight says, "Your majesty, I boldly rode out against your enemies in the north. I slaughtered their warriors, killed their livestock, burned their crops, and slept with their women. This I have done in your name. But we have no enemies in the north." The king protests. "Ah," says the knight, looking pale. "Well, you do now." 3 friends all died together in a car accident. When they got to heaven, an angel met them and said, "Welcome to heaven. Here we only have one rule, don't step on a duck." All 3 friends started giggling. The first friend asked, "What happens if we step on a duck?" The angel responded, "If you step on a duck, you will northeast chain to the ugliest person you can imagine for the rest of eternity." The first friend laughed and took a step forward. Out of nowhere a duck ran towards his foot and got stepped on. Before he knew it, an angel appeared with the ugliest person he had ever seen and chained the 2 together. The second friend, after seeing what just happened, started walking very carefully, but soon he was distracted by heaven's glory and stepped on a duck, and he was chained to the ugliest person he had ever seen. The third friend, not want to suffer the same fate, decided he would never lift his feet. So he dragged his feet on the ground, never lifting a foot. Centuries pass, and he still never lifted a foot, when all of a sudden, an angel appears and chains him to the most beautiful woman he had ever seen. Eyes wide in amazement, he looked at the angel and said, "Wow, what did I do to earn this?" The woman looked at him and said, "I don't know about you, but I stepped on a duck." The old classic from Leisure Suit Larry. Priest discovers the wine was never delivered, and it's now Saturday night. He heads downtown in his street clothes to the only open liquor store. On his way out, a hooker propositions him, "Hey honey, how about a blowjob? Only $20. Priest has no idea what she's offering, so he quickly excuses himself and gets back to the church. The next morning, he pulls the Mother Superior aside and asks, "Excuse me, what's a blowjob?" $20, same as in town. Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson decide to go on a camping trip. After dinner and a bottle of wine, they lay down for the night and go to sleep. Some hours later, Holmes awoke and nudged his faithful friend. "Watson, look up at the sky and tell me what you see." Watson replied, "I see millions of stars." "What does that tell you?" Watson pondered for a minute. "Astronomically, it tells me that there are millions of galaxies and potentially billions of planets. Astrologically, I observe that Saturn is in Leo. Horologically, I deduce that the time is approximately 3:15. Theologically, I can see that God is all powerful and that we are small and insignificant. Meteorologically, I suspect that we will have a beautiful day tomorrow." "What does it tell you, Holmes?" Holmes was silent for a minute, then spoke. "Watson, you idiot. Someone has stolen our tent." A bus carrying only ugly people crashes into an oncoming truck, and everyone inside dies. They then get to meet their maker, and because of the grief they have experienced, he decides to grant them one wish each, before they are let in the pearly gates. They're all lined up, and God asks the first one what the wish is. Slurring his words out of a misshapen mouth, he says, "I want to be gorgeous." And so God snaps his fingers, and boom, he's gorgeous. The second one in line hears this, and says, "I want to be gorgeous too." Another snap of his fingers and the wish is granted. This goes on for a while, but when God is halfway down the line, the last guy in line hears everyone else's wish and starts laughing. Finally, God reaches this guy and asks him what his wish will be. The guy comes down and says, "Make him all ugly again." A priest, a rabbi, and a lawyer are on the Titanic. The ship hits the iceberg and begins to sink. The rabbi says, "Oh no, we must save the children." The lawyer jumps in a lifeboat and says, "Fuck the children." And the priest says, "We don't have time for that right now. The ship's sinking."